they've got these raging hormones that they can't manage, and they're going from these little puppies into these big dogs, and then they're being asked to really challenge their bodies with a lot of repetitive, especially the higher functioning athletes, a lot of repetitive motion. And I think, and they're wearing out their joints, they're wearing out their bones and muscles. And so I'd love to see them take on some more of these kinds of mind-body practices so that they're able to hold themselves in a healthier, more balanced state.
Hello, and welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. I'm your host, Laura Ollinger, teen and young adult wellbeing coach and founder of Positively Healthy Coaching. Today, I'm so excited to introduce my guest, Lisa Danahy, who has the most amazing resume. She's got an MS in yoga therapy, a BA in psychology. She's an educator, an entrepreneur, and has a nonprofit called Create Calm. So she's all about social emotional learning, curriculum development. She certifies like just everything. So Lisa, just kind of like help me make sense of all of these things that you're doing.
You pretty much caught it there. I love helping people grow into the best versions of themselves. I love promoting wellness and connection. And so my work focuses really on helping build connections. And one of the best ways to do that is through social emotional development, connections in families, connections in schools, connections among people. And through those connections, we all feel a little more safe, a little more joyful, and a little more well. So,
yes. And you talk about creating calm. So that's a big, big topic. But like, if you could just kind of, concentrate it down to one principal idea, what would that be?
yeah, it comes from a kind of funny little backstory. I ran a school for almost 20 years for littles, babies to 5 and 6-year-olds going up to kindergarten. And I was constantly hearing, and probably through my own personal life, I've heard it a lot too, but I was constantly hearing when a child was upset, I'd hear someone say, just calm down. You need to be calm, and and it was so ridiculous because I'd be like, who can calm down when someone's yelling at them, calm down? And don't you think
Right.
I'm freaking out? It's because I can't access calm. And so I started to consider, what if we created practices that create calm? What if what I do is help model for you the way you can access your nervous system, you can access resources so that you can actually create the calm yourself. And we practice it outside of the craziness so that when you get into that uncalm space, you're more likely on your own to go, okay, I think I know what to do. I can go into my little, toolkit and I can come out and I can create my own calm.
Okay. I'm so glad you explained like how this, got started, where it, came about, because those principles, and of course we all as moms remember those days where we're either saying it or we hear other moms saying it or everybody's saying it, right? And you think of the classic like grocery store example with the kid freaking out and it's embarrassing, right? And so it's like, oh, I'm the mom who, can't calm my kid down. So yes, that's so important to teach kids and empower them to learn these skills when they don't need them. So that way, when they do need them, they know better how to turn those on and how to access those.
Yes. And the other side of that is usually when a kid is dysregulated, is uncalm, usually the adult matches that vibration, matches that craziness, and the adult is no longer regulated. And so my goal in teaching these tools is to help the adults be able to be more regulated too. And I'm a bit of a science geek, and so I will try to make this really
Same.
brief. Yeah, I do. That's what I was going to say. You and I could go on a really big tangent on this, but what it really boils down to is nervous system regulation through mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are these pathways by which we are constantly assessing where we belong and how we fit into the world around us. And we're looking at people to model for us how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to feel and engage. And we've all had that experience where we're having a really good day. We walk into a room and something really ugly is happening. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, and we become that energy, right? It's like,
Yeah, you can just feel it. Yeah.
it's palpable, and when
Yeah.
we do that, all of a sudden we go, "Oh, I'm the oddball here. They're all freaking out, so let me conform and become, unregulated too." And the
Mhm.
goal here from a neuroscience perspective is for the adult to have enough skills in their toolbox that they can regulate and they can walk into that room and they can stay steady even when everybody else is not. And then they become the reflector. They become the one that the other mirror neurons start to follow. And so,
Mhm.
I had a little one who I was working with, who came to me because everybody talked about this child was imbalanced, this child needed help, was getting kicked out of school, wasn't ever invited over to a friend's house, had 4-hour tantrums. Well,
Mm.
I started working with them, and in 2 sessions, we had drastically shifted his capacity to access his calm, and he was
Mm.
down to, like, less than 20 minutes in a tantrum. He was in his school teaching methods, but the ultimate was one day his mother was upset. Now, I'm not saying that even the best at regulating their nervous systems are not gonna be upset, so, I mean, that's part of
Mhm.
what we're here to practice, but the mom was
Mhm.
upset, and the little guy turned and said, "Mama, I think you need a balloon breath."
Yeah. That's so cute. That's so
Because
cute.
he started doing balloon breaths, and he
Mhm.
offered a regulation platform for her. So I do
Mhm.
think we all have to be doing this together, because if you have a tool that you use, but no one else understands what you're using and how to use it, it's not gonna be, as powerful as if we're all practicing it together.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, recently I was in an event where it was multi-generational, and so it was kind of like the concept was that older women were lifting up the younger women, but in return it goes both ways, right? Like we're getting the energy from the younger women and it's building and helping these older ladies grow. So it's kind of like very similar to what you're saying. We're just all helping each other.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to engage and connect, and it's not always gonna be smooth, and it's not always gonna be, efficient, but it is gonna be an opportunity to practice doing it differently again,
Mm.
and it's the connection. I say this all the time when I'm working with teachers and doing trainings in schools: connection before instruction,
Mhm.
connection before engagement, connection before integration. And so we need a sense of belonging and safety before we can accurately and effectively connect with the world around us.
Yes, yes. I that's something I'm working on with several of my clients at the moment is for in my world I say connection before correction, and it's just like not only that, but we're in this society that is driven by achievement and performance and this competitive world, and it's not only the pressure on the kids, but the parents feel the pressure, and so when the parents feeling the pressure, they're pushing that onto the teenagers, and it's just suddenly a lot of my clients say, my parents care. It feels to them, not saying it's true, but it feels like they care more about my grades than they do about me. Right. And that's hard. That's
And
sad. That's not
yeah,
really what we want. And that's not what the parents really want either, but they don't know how to flip it. Right. I mean, that's what I'm helping them with. But like,
yeah,
kind of just as a society, like, how do we flip it where we can connect first and then we could do the
right,
other things later. Right.
right. And
um,
how do we let go of outcome?
yeah.
One of my favorite things to do when I'm leading group experiences especially for teens, is to give them the opportunity to be their own decision maker, to modulate
Mm,
their own behavior. And they are so conditioned because they've had a lot of years of people telling them on the outside what to do. this is what you should look like. This is how you engage. This is how,
Mhm.
this is what's important. And so they have lost a connection with their intuition, with their inner knowing. And so what happens is when we are so bombarded constantly on the outside by these comments and these expectations that push us to be something and do something, we stop listening on the inside. We stop
Mhm.
connecting on the inside. So it's just as
Mhm.
important as my external connection is my internal connection. When I lose that connection,
Mhm.
then I'm constantly looking to the outside for the message. What do I do next? How do I behave? What comes next? And when that happens, there's no more agency. There's no more capacity to regulate myself because I'm needing my external world to regulate me. So my favorite
Mm.
thing in these classes with these teens is to say, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to recommend some things and move in some ways, and you come along in the way that works for you. And if you become
Mm.
dysregulated, you're going to access the tools that we're practicing to regulate yourself.
Mm. Yes, that makes so much sense. Wow, what how that's so powerful, and it's funny because, I wanna tell you honestly, it took me years and years and years of kind of, like, learning this and practicing it myself in various modalities, to, like, understand that really, like, mind-body connection and, like, feeling really integrated, and so many times now I find that when I'm talking I really do, like, kind of hesitate or pause a lot, and it might seem like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm saying," but really, I'm, like, just kind of, like, checking in with my body and, like, really feeling, like, "How does this feel?" And then I find that I give more accurate or more, authentic responses, and when I say that, I find, like, the before I did this work years and years ago, I don't think I would have understood what I'm saying right now. And so how do you describe that to kids so that it or even adults so that it makes sense to them?
Yeah, well, for me, part of it is this notion that what we're thinking and how we're feeling, our emotions,
Mhm.
are directing physiological responses in our body. And physiological responses in our body can direct how we think and feel.
Mhm.
So, a key piece of this is, like you said, this mind body connection. So, if I can tune into what's going on in my body and I can feel my muscles getting tense, I can feel my breath short or shallow, I can feel dryness in my mouth or sweat on my body or these physiological markers that something is out
Mm.
of balance, then
Mhm.
I can go, "Oh, wait, what what's going on in my body?" And sometimes it takes a whole lot of practice to be able to go into your mind and say, "Oh, well, it was just that feeling or that thought, and it was that
Yeah.
belief system." But instead, if I feel my body, and this is where I think movement is so important. Lots of studies have shown that the brain needs movement to function. So
Mhm.
if I can feel into my body and I notice my muscles are tight, then I can pick a movement to take care of that in my body. And very often, it will give me the room for my mind to go, okay, wait, what's going on here? It'll give me that
Mm.
pause, like you were saying, that moment where
Yeah.
I go, okay, 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 wait, what? And
Mhm.
then I can drop a little more clearly into the feelings and the thoughts, and I can manage them. So, for example, one of the things I do a lot with teens is if they're feeling really tight and tense, let's say they're getting ready to go into a big test, or they're having to have a conversation with a parent around something that's a little edgy. What I recommend that they do is stand up, stomp their feet a little, and shake their bodies. And take
Mm.
30 seconds and shake your whole body. Shake it
Mhm.
really pretty forcefully. Shake it up,
Mhm.
shake it up, shake it up. And then, yeah, feel it, try it.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I kinda wanna
shake it
feel
up,
that looseness.
shake
Yeah,
it
yeah.
up. And then reach your arms out to the sides. Take a big breath in. Reach up over your head as you breathe out. Bring your hands right down through the middle. And you do that once or twice. You do another big breath in, and then you breathe out and just pause here and
Mhm.
just notice your body.
Mm.
So we did
Yeah.
that for about 10 seconds, but it's a
Mhm.
super quick nervous system reset. It's a super
Yeah.
quick way to get out of the stress response
Mhm.
and realign with sort of a decision-making mode, that higher functioning part of your brain. You get out of the system, that primitive
Yeah.
response mode, the emotional brain. You can do the same thing just with the breaths, but I find that actually moving my body helps me to rework what's happening physiologically, and therefore it automatically begins to shift what's happening mentally.
Yes. And I think for the moms, this might be very relevant because I know I find certain times of the day, I get stressed out, my body feels stressed, and it's when I'm in the car because I can't really move, I can't really shake or wiggle it out or do my big breaths like this. I mean, you could do a little bit of breath work at a stoplight or something, but I've caught myself so many times like, why am I feeling so tense? What's happening, in my brain? What can I do? And it's always related to some, you said this earlier, like outcome. And it's always like the outcome of the rest of the day or of the evening or how we're going to get to dinner and sports and bedtime all at, without right way in some kind of all in one piece in a way. And so
We all we all piled in the car, carrying all our stress from the day into the car, and
yeah.
then in the car, all contained and bottled up, we start to have these significant conversations around
Mm,
huge issues. And then
mm,
we wonder
mhm.
why it becomes
Yeah.
explosive. And what's
Yeah.
happening, the words and the breath are trying to move that energy, and it's quite literally contained inside of
Mhm.
this car. But if we get out, if we can resist the urge to have the big talk in the car, sometimes
Mhm.
that's an awesome place to let kids just ramble and talk. But if we can risk that
Yeah.
urge to ask and engage and get out of the car and everybody shake. I do this with my students. I don't just tell them to shake, I shake with them.
Mm.
We
Okay.
shake, and then
Mhm.
as we shake together and we take those big breaths together, then it's, okay, are we ready to have this conversation?
Yes. I just like this tool just even to use alone by myself, but then also what you're saying is you can do it with your kids or like you're saying if you're a teacher or you work with kids in some other capacity if you're a sports coach or something like that, right? Like have the whole team do this, come together as Just a quick word before we get back to the episode. If you have a teen daughter heading off to college and you've quietly wondered what happens when she's there and I'm not, when something goes wrong at 11 p.m. and she can't call me, that worry is exactly why I built Positively Healthy University. It's a 3-hour live workshop just with me and a group of 10 girls where she'll get to build the emotional toolkit no college prep class covers. How to sit with hard things, how to regulate without reaching for her phone first, how to build a real community when she gets there. I have got 2 sessions this summer, so head to positivelyhealthycoaching.com/PHU for dates and to grab her spot. I have capped at 10 girls on purpose. Okay, back to the show. I bet you have a lot of experience. Like, tell us a story about a time you were educating or coaching a group that did work with like a large group of kids, and how what was the outcome of that for them? What they learned from you?
The story that comes to mind is I was actually working with a high school basketball team, and none of the kids had really done yoga, and the coach hadn't done a lot of it, but the team was not doing very well. And then we had a lot of injuries, and the coach was getting really frustrated. And the coach said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, let's try a session. So we worked through the fall, getting them ready to go into their winter session. And we worked together and we did a lot of moving and a lot of breathing. We did a lot of what I call intense sensation. And I love
Mm,
intense sensations because I actually do this a lot with pregnant moms too. I pick one pose or one position that we hold for a minute. And the goal is to continue to notice that you're inhaling and exhaling, continue to keep the breath going. Notice which muscles are gripping on and holding and trying to do all the work. Notice what muscles are kind of lazy and not helping out.
Mhm.
Switch muscles, play with the muscles, play with the engagement, play with the breath for a whole minute.
Mm.
And that is a long time. And what we found was at the beginning, there was a whole lot of resistance. And everybody knew that at some point in every class, Miss Lisa was going to do intense sensation. And, and so some of them would walk in at the beginning of class, like, do we have to do intense sensation today? And I'd be like, yes, we do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Every class we would do one, but by the end of the sequence of classes, they were asking for it, not to do away with it, because they were
Oh.
recognizing that it empowered them. They were recognizing their
Oh.
growth and their capacity to be in a challenge for a minute. And what ended up happening was the coach said that next season, these kids had more endurance. They were able to run much more effectively up and down the court. They were much less injured.
Mm.
They were much more communicative and collaborative because what happened in the intense sensation moments was they were started to
Mhm.
cheer each other on. And
Oh.
And so they'd be in this really frustrating place, and they'd still make room to see somebody next to them maybe challenged or struggling a lot, and they'd go, "Come
Mhm.
on, man, you can do it." And they'd all hang in there, and so it built this community that he did not expect, and I was wonderfully surprised at how robust it was, but
Yeah.
it was really cool because they all were brave enough to do something outside of their comfort zone, something
Mm.
unfamiliar, and
Mhm.
the key to me was that we practiced all of this in a really playful, low outcome, low
Yeah.
expectation way, and it's something that they took into their school day, into their athletic life, into their home life, and they walked away with these tools that did far more than give them a great season.
Yes, yes, what a great lifelong skill and learning that they had, and I bet in some way, shape, or form, they'll always find a way to come back to that because of what you taught them. So, wow, what a beautiful story. I wasn't expecting something like that, but I love that, and it kind of inspires me to my 2 football player sons. They're always dealing with injuries, these things, and I love to introduce them to some of your work and maybe find a way for them to do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's really awesome. I've worked with I have two sons who are all grown now, and I've worked with their school. They went to an all boys school, and I worked with the athletes, but I also worked with the musicians.
Oh.
And we did breathing and movement to
Mhm.
enhance their breath capacity, especially the wind players, but the
Yeah.
percussionists, the strings, like everybody needs to have balance to
Mhm.
perform, to be able to take their talents and apply them in that way. And
Right,
so
and get, like, in that flow state where
yes.
they can just lock in and play, and it just feels like no time has gone by because 'cause they're just in the zone or in the flow.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to see more kids, especially teens, because one of the reasons I liked working with the kids at this school were teens are prone to injury anyway by the biology of their bodies. They've got these soft growth plates. Their bones are growing quicker than their muscles. They've got we could do a whole other section on hormones. Um,
Mhm.
they've got these raging hormones that they can't manage, and they're going from these little puppies into these big dogs, and and then they're being asked to really challenge their bodies with a lot of repetitive, especially the
Mm.
higher conditioning athletes, a lot of repetitive motion. And they're
Mhm.
wearing out their joints, they're wearing out their bones and muscles. And so I'd love to see them take on some more of these kinds of mind body practices so
Mhm.
that they are able to hold themselves in a healthier, more balanced state.
Man. Yes. Wow. Who knew this was how this conversation would lead? Well, I know it's super fun. Is there anything, with our last minute or two that you feel would be important for the moms to hear today? It could be relating to their stress, to their teenager stress, to just kind of having this co-regulation or the self-regulation that we've been talking about.
I think moms, lighten up on yourself. Stop having those big expectations of you. Allow yourself to be really present and really messy.
Mm,
And invite your kids along on the journey with you and ask your kids how you can go on the journey with them.
that's beautiful. Okay. Well, with that being said, how can people find you?
Best place to find me is probably at my nonprofit's website, and that is createcalm.org.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This was a really cool conversation, and I appreciate it. Have a good one.
It's my pleasure.
I just enjoyed my conversation with Lisa Danahy so much. We talked about emotional regulation, co regulation, mirror neurons, breathing, mind body connection, so many great tools. And my thoughts are what an amazing educator this woman is. And she's bringing these tools to schools in her nonprofit program and also has her private coaching business that she does. And I really think just kind of getting this awareness out there, the more I talk about it with different guests, that it's so important for moms to realize that they are really the leaders and the teachers and the educators within their own families. And that the more they can teach these skills to, if they have young kids, it's ideal to start when they're young, but really it's never too late. I know I didn't start learning a lot of these skills until my late 30s, early 40s. And so just going to show that it's never too late to learn some mind body connection tools, emotional regulation, breathing, and just how that can bring us together. She talked about connection and whether it's a one-on-one relationship or a classroom, a family, a community can bring us closer together because if we're all helping each other, supporting each other, and bringing each other, kind of holding each other accountable even to our emotional regulation. She said the number one thing that does not work is telling people to calm down. That's how she got started with this whole thing. I think she said 30 years ago, the more you tell someone to calm down, the more they're not going to calm down. We all know that. And so the more we can kind of practice these things when we're already in a relaxed, calm state, then when we get to some type of an emotional boiling point, we're able to just calm ourselves back down on our own so that we can reconnect and solve our problems better.
When you get a chance, please go to the show notes and click on the link ratethispodcast.com/tphmom to give my podcast a rating and review. And if this episode resonates with you, be sure to share it with your mom friends who are going through the same things. Be sure to tune in for next week's conversation. Until then, keep up the good work.